What is left when a town loses its people? Its industry collapses and the roads that once fed it fall silent. In Utah, the answer is scattered across desert basins, pressed against red rock cliffs, and buried at the ends of roads that no longer serve a purpose. Utah holds more than 100 ghost towns, but a handful stand out not just for what remains, but for what they reveal. These places are not romantic ruins. They are records of ambition, labor, belief, and endurance. Settlements that once mattered deeply, then slipped quietly out of relevance. From Helper, a former coal and railroad town reshaped by creativity, to Iosepa, a Hawaiian community swallowed by isolation. Each location is a fragment of history that never reached a clean ending. Helper still exists, but only after being forced to reinvent itself. Located in Carbon County, the town now supports a population of roughly 2,112 residents, a fraction of what it once held during its industrial peak. In the early 20th century, Helper was defined by motion. Trains climbed the steep grade of Soldier Summit, assisted by extra engines known as helpers, a role that gave the town both its name and its purpose. At its height, Helper was nicknamed the town of 57 varieties, reflecting an unusual level of immigrant diversity for a mining settlement. Italian, Greek, Japanese, and Eastern European workers lived side by side, drawn by coal, rail labor, and the promise of steady work. When mining declined and rail traffic slowed, the town's identity fractured. In recent years, old storefronts and rail-side buildings have been reclaimed by artists, galleries, and small cafes. Helper no longer runs on coal, but its streets still carry the imprint of labor, migration, and shared survival. Eureka was built on extraction and nearly erased by it. Set in Juab County, the town sat at the core of the Tintic mining district, once among the most productive ore regions in the western United States. Silver, gold, and lead pulled thousands into the area. At its peak, Eureka was loud, crowded, and wealthy by frontier standards. When the mines began shutting down in the mid-20th century, the decline was rapid. Today, about 660 residents remain, living among brick buildings that outlasted the boom. Main Street still holds its original shape, anchored by structures like the 1899 City Hall, now repurposed as a local museum. Inside are mining tools, maps, and photographs, evidence of a town that did not disappear completely, but instead settled into a quieter, narrower existence shaped by memory rather than production. Milford survives in a harsher environment, both geographically and historically. Located in Beaver County, the town emerged in the late 19th century as a railroad stop tied to regional mining activity. The desert around it offered little forgiveness, but the rails brought opportunity. When valuable metals were found nearby, Milford expanded quickly. Today, approximately 1,400 people remain. The town's relevance extended beyond mining in unexpected ways. During the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens, Milford became a key evacuation and support point as ash clouds spread across parts of the region. It also hosted Utah's first geothermal energy project, placing it quietly at the edge of the state's energy history. Milford is no longer a hub, but it endures, shaped by resilience rather than growth. Green River exists less as a destination and more as a moment of stillness in eastern Utah. Surrounded by towering red rock walls and long stretches of open desert, the town feels suspended between movement and rest. Decades ago, rail traffic and agriculture, especially its famous melon harvest, kept the town active. That legacy survives today in community events like the Green River Melon Days Festival, even as the permanent population has settled at roughly 900 residents. The town also carries a deeper historical weight. Green River once served as a departure point for river expeditions led by John Wesley Powell, whose journeys mapped the Colorado River through some of the most dangerous canyon systems in North America. Now, Interstate 70 cuts past the town, lined with aging motels and abandoned rail remnants. Green River is not abandoned, but it has shifted into a slower rhythm, holding on to memory while waiting for the next wave of travelers to pass through. Silver Reef should not exist, at least not according to 19th century geology. When silver was discovered in sandstone here in the 1870s, experts dismissed it as impossible. Yet the ore was real, and the town that formed around it rose quickly, becoming one of the most productive silver sites in Utah. The boom did not last. When the silver ran out, Silver Reef emptied almost as fast as it had grown. Today, there are no residents, only foundations, brick walls, and gravestones scattered across the desert floor. A small museum now occupies the former Wells Fargo building, preserving photographs, tools, and coins from the town's brief but intense lifespan. At sunset, the red desert light settles over the ruins, reinforcing the sense that this place was never meant to last, only to prove something once, then disappear. Old Irontown represents ambition ahead of its time. Established in 1868 by Mormon settlers in southwestern Utah, it became the region's first attempt at large-scale iron production. The town grew around furnaces, mills, and water-powered systems designed to support an emerging industrial economy in the desert. The experiment failed. Within 20 years, nearby timber was exhausted, ore quality declined, and iron production became unsustainable. Residents left, leaving the infrastructure behind. Today, Old Irontown has no permanent population. Brick furnaces, a rusted water wheel, and the remains of a massive blast furnace still stand, preserved as historical landmarks. This site once supplied rails, tools, and weaponry across southern Utah. Now it exists only as a reminder of how quickly industrial dreams can cool when resources run dry. Dividend emerged in Utah County during the early 20th century as a purpose-built mining settlement tied to the Tintic Standard Mining Company. In the 1920s, gold and silver extraction brought rapid growth. At its peak, more than 1,000 workers and family members lived here, supported by rail lines, machinery yards, and tightly packed housing carved into the surrounding hills. The decline was slow, but unavoidable. By the late 1940s, ore quality dropped, and metal prices fell, jobs disappeared, and residents left gradually, rather than all at once. Today, Dividend has no population at all. What remains are poured concrete foundations, fractured rail segments, and the skeletal remains of a collapsed mining tower standing against desert wind. The town's name now feels painfully ironic. It reflected investors' expectations of profit, yet most never saw returns. What Dividend offers now is silence, visited mainly by hikers and photographers drawn to a place where ambition hardened into ruins. Frisco was never subtle. Founded in 1875 in Beaver County after the discovery of the Horn Silver Mine, the town erupted almost overnight into one of the most infamous boom towns in the American West. At its height, more than 6,000 people crowded into the settlement. Saloons, brothels, gambling halls, and violence defined daily life. The town's reputation became so extreme that local legend claims the sheriff slept in shifts, when he slept at all. The collapse was just as dramatic. In 1885, the main mine failed, killing workers and cutting off the town's economic core in an instant. Frisco emptied quickly. Today there are no residents, no services, and no movement. Only scattered ruins, open mine shafts, and a solitary brick smokestack rising from the desert floor. Frisco did not fade away. It burned out, leaving behind the physical scars of a town that expanded faster than it could survive. Castlegate was shaped as much by tragedy as by coal. Built in Carbon County, the town sat between steep stone walls that formed a natural passage through the canyon, a gate carved by geology. In the early 20th century, operations run by the Utah Fuel Company turned Castlegate into a busy coal settlement, complete with housing, rail yards, and steady employment. That stability shattered on March 8, 1924. A catastrophic explosion tore through the mine, killing 171 workers. It remains one of the deadliest mining disasters in United States history. Though the town continued for decades afterward, its future was sealed. When mining operations finally shut down in the 1970s, Castlegate was dismantled and relocated. Today, only foundations and a memorial remain at the original site. Long before the disaster, the town had already entered Western legend, targeted in a payroll robbery by Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Coal, crime, and catastrophe intersected here, leaving behind a place permanently marked by loss. Madena barely registers in Utah's historical record, and that is exactly why it matters. Located in Beaver County, this settlement appeared in the 1890s for a very specific reason: rail support. It functioned as a water and coal stop along the Union Pacific Line, positioned between Milford and Pioche, Nevada. For passing trains, Madena was essential. For anything else, it was minimal. The town never grew beyond necessity. Even at its busiest, Madena had only a single saloon and one general store. Yet those two buildings formed the center of its social life. Cowboys, railroad crews, and miners passed through briefly, then moved on. When rail traffic slowed and nearby mining activity declined, Madena had nothing to fall back on. The stop was no longer needed. Today, the desert has absorbed nearly everything, leaving behind little more than wind, open ground, and rails fading into the sand. Cisco sits at an awkward intersection of memory and abandonment. Found in Grand County, the town once played a key role during the late 19th century as a refueling and service point for the Denver and Rio Grande Western Railroad. Its streets saw a steady mix of miners, ranchers, and travelers moving through the region. For a time, Cisco was busy enough to feel permanent. That permanence ended when rail service declined and highway travel redirected movement elsewhere. With no trains and no new economic role, Cisco emptied out. What remains are collapsing wooden houses, a deteriorating gas station, and layers of desert dust settling over everything. Despite its emptiness, Cisco gained an unexpected second life as a filming location for Thelma and Louise. A brief return to relevance that contrasts sharply with its current stillness. Sego rose quickly and disappeared just as fast. Hidden inside a narrow canyon in Grand County, the town was established in the early 20th century as a coal mining settlement. Hundreds of workers lived here, many of them immigrants from Eastern Europe, drawn by the promise of steady wages and a new beginning in the American West. The promise did not last. Coal reserves were limited, and by the 1950s, mining operations ended. When the final train departed, Sego was effectively finished. Buildings were abandoned, roofs collapsed, and chimneys stood alone against the canyon walls. Yet the site carries a deeper history beneath the mining ruins. Long before Sego existed, the land was marked by the Fremont culture, whose rock art, carved more than 1,000 years ago, still survives nearby. It is a quiet reminder that settlements come and go, but stories can endure far longer than the towns built to hold them. Lloyd exists today more as a historical footnote than a physical place. Located in northern Utah, the settlement appeared in the late 19th century as a modest agricultural stop along a trade corridor leading toward Idaho. For a short time, farming and passing traffic were enough to sustain it, but the balance was fragile from the beginning. Recurring drought weakened agriculture, and as trade routes shifted, Lloyd was gradually cut off from economic movement. Families left quietly, leaving no final moment of collapse, only absence. Today, the town has no residents at all. What remains are scattered stone foundations and fragments of wooden fencing slowly overtaken by desert vegetation. Long before it vanished, the area lay near the path of the Pony Express, a reminder that Lloyd once sat close to one of the fastest communication networks of early America. Now that connection exists only in memory. Grafton feels preserved rather than destroyed. Established in 1859 along the Virgin River, the town was settled by Mormon pioneers who relied on farming, livestock, and small-scale cotton production. For a few years, the settlement functioned as intended, a quiet agricultural community rooted in cooperation. That stability ended in 1862 when severe flooding erased fields, damaged homes, and undermined the town's future. Most residents relocated to higher ground, and Grafton was left behind. Today, no permanent population remains. A handful of restored wooden buildings still stand alongside a cemetery that feels suspended in time. Grafton later gained cultural recognition as a filming location for Butch Cassidy and The Sundance Kid, starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford. The structures seen on screen remain unchanged, reinforcing the feeling that the town stopped moving long ago. Iosepa tells a different kind of story, one shaped by hope rather than industry. Founded in 1889, the town was established by Hawaiian converts to the Mormon Church, who relocated to Utah in search of opportunity and community. They built homes, cultivated crops, opened schools, and preserved their cultural traditions through music and dance, creating a distinctly Hawaiian settlement in the middle of the desert. The challenges proved overwhelming. Isolation, illness, and the harsh climate slowly eroded the community's strength. By 1917, Iosepa was officially abandoned. No one lives there today. The site holds only a small monument and a cemetery marked with Hawaiian names carved into stone. Yet Iosepa is not entirely silent. Each Memorial Day, descendants return for the Iosepa festival, gathering to honor their ancestors. In that sense, Iosepa survives, not as a town, but as a living remembrance of migration, resilience, and the cost of starting over far from home.